to our health workers here in Wales, and that offer, of course, went above the recommendation.
Doing is bankrupting the country. Similar view on HS2 actually from Michael in Southend-on-Sea. HS2 has bankrupted the country. I don't know if you were mending that for defence, but let's see. Tony's in Reading. Tony, a pound goes to the nurses or the military? Good morning.
Good morning. And firstly, Nick, you did an amazing job. Can't praise you enough, you and your team.
Oh my goodness.
And back from Madeira, by the way, just one funny thing, I brought steak back that's made in Ireland and sold in Madeira, as well as some great cheddar cheese made in Ireland and bought in Madeira. Is that amazing?
Oh, extraordinary. Yeah. I mean, it makes you think, doesn't it? What's going on here?
You know, I have special operations experience, both with the US as well as British. I now run the cybersecurity forum for Wall Street and the big banks. Okay. Let me just give you a couple of data points, okay?
Yeah.
In the old days, when I was in the service, okay, there was a way you did things. You threw troops and men, just like the Russians are, out of front. Russians and Chinese have unlimited men, unlimited tanks, unlimited crap. Actually, in the real estate of things, if you look at the ground game now in Ukraine is doing well because of the intelligence. Now, let me give you two data points. Firstly, 2017, NotPetya. NotPetya was a ransomware. UK Russian ransomware hit Ukraine and sideswiped Merton.
Okay, we're getting a little. I mean, it's really interesting background. The trouble is, a lot of people want to have their say. I need to ask you, Tony. A pound can only go to a nurse or a soldier. Where does it go?
It's got to go to cybersecurity and intelligence. NotPetya took out a massive farmer, and then this Cozy Bear.
Okay, so not a boots on the ground, but cyber security is what you're saying.
It has to be cyber. The game of war has changed.
Okay, I hear what you say. I know you've got so much more to say, but you've got to understand so many people want to have their say. Tony, thank you for that and your kind words about the show. Richard in Maidenhead, does the pound go to the soldier or the nurse? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. At the moment, because of our state of budget, I think we can't afford to pay more, but I'd say we have to spend it better. I don't see any reason why the UK should ever need a tank. We are an island, luckily, so unless Scotland or Wales decide to invade England, we should never need tanks. We should invest in air security and sea security.
But how can we honestly say we're a part of NATO if we never bring any tanks to the party?
Well, but that's it. We can tell to NATO, okay, let's say Germany was invaded. Okay, America, France, you bring some tanks. We're going to bring all the air power, because that's where we invest everything. We invest it all in air and sea defence, and then we should never get invaded.
Wouldn't you find it a degree discomforting that when you hear that Poland is sending tanks, the Czech Republic is sending tanks, Germany is sending tanks, the United, and Britain says, well, no, actually, we don't run any tanks in our army. It doesn't work like that, I don't think.
Because we shouldn't need tanks in our army. Our army should be the world supply of air and sea defence. We need a tank in our army.
All right. It's a view. So far, we're going to not have any tanks, and it's all going into cyber. The pound can only go one way, the soldier or the nurse. More of your calls on that in a moment. Plus, coming up after the news, we'll go back on the picket line for the nurses, the RCN. Pat Cullen, General Secretary, speaking yesterday.
Our mandate is until May, but Rishi Sunak can call these strikes off at any time. He shouldn't push nurses onto picket lines to May. That's unforgivable if he does.
Hear from her after this 8:45. LBC News headlines, Thomas Watts.
Rescuers are working through freezing temperatures as they try to find survivors of yesterday's earthquakes in Syria and Turkey. Former Metropolitan Police Officer David Carrick is facing a life sentence for dozens of sexual offences. BP has reported record annual profits driven by last year's increase in energy prices. LBC weather bright and chilly for most, but cloud and rain in Scotland and Northern Ireland, a high of 8 Celsius.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne, where because of the fog there are still long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise. It's slow for about an hour from junction 29 at the A127 to 25 at the A10, and then also because of the fog, it's very slow for about 40 minutes from junction 9 at Leatherhead to 13 at Staines. Also because of the fog, the Woolwich ferry is suspended and there are delays and cancellations at London City Airport. Also, it's still very foggy on the North Circular Road around Edmonton. There are long delays westbound from the Kenninghall interchange to New Southgate, not being helped by the fact there was an accident earlier as well. And there are severe delays on the Elizabeth line between Whitechapel and Shenfield, and minor delays between Paddington and Whitechapel.
This is LBC.
It wasn't me, I swear. I wasn't even there.
Then please remind the court what exactly you were doing that night. Remember, you're under oath.
I was on a comparison site buying car insurance.
And which insurer did you choose, Mr. Beckett?
Direct Line.
He's a liar. Everyone knows Direct Line aren't on comparison sites. Judge, I rest my case. Search Direct Line, because everyone knows we're not on comparison sites.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
Forget everything you know about musicals. The award-winning musical Bat Out of Hell is roaring back to London. This fun, outrageous rock and roll spectacular brings to life the legendary hits of Jim Steinman and Meat Loaf. Bat Out of Hell is at the Peacock Theatre from the 17th of February for a strictly limited season. Book now at sadlerswells.com. Don't miss out.
Sail the world a different way with Fred Olsen Cruise Lines. Our award-winning itineraries are unusual and imaginative, bursting with local culture, history and wildlife. And aboard our smaller ships, the atmosphere is always warm and friendly. It'd be easy to follow the crowds, but we never will, because this is our way, the Olsen way. Book now for free drinks or spend on selected sailings. Be quick, offer ends on 28th of February. Visit fredolsencruises.com for more information. T's and C's apply.
Life is about sharing those magical moments, and food shouldn't be any different. For over 35 years, Marouche has been perfecting this experience with their delicious food, warm hospitality, and live entertainment. Authentic Lebanese cuisine made the traditional way. Marouche, your family restaurant. Book now at marouche.com.
At Lloyds Bank, we know how important it is right now to feel in control of your outgoings. Our 10-year fixed-rate mortgage means that while the cost of other things may go up, you can be sure your mortgage rate won't, allowing you to manage your finances in the short term as you budget for the long term. Find out more online, over the phone, or in branch. Lloyds Bank, by your side. Only available for Club Lloyds customers. Exclusions and conditions apply.
I just sold my car.
When are you going to part exchange?
I was, but who knew you could get a bigger discount on your next car if you sell to We Buy Any Car? Just sold my car to We Buy Any Car. Just sold my car to We Buy Any Car. Just sold my car to We Buy Any Car.
To find out how much your car's worth in 30 seconds, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com. Admin fee may apply. For more information, visit WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
Now that the holiday season is over, many timeshare owners are facing a winter of expensive upkeep. With rising inflation, now more than ever, we need to look after our money. If you own a timeshare in Spain or the Canaries and bought it after 5th of January 1999, you may have been missold. mytimeshareclaim.co.uk could help you exit your contract and receive substantial compensation. To find out more, text ASSIST to 78900. That's ASSIST to 78900 today.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973.
10 minutes before 9 is the time. Let's pick up on its day 2, of course, of the nurses' strike, with the RCN and nurses taking to the picket line. And indeed, we go straight to the picket line outside the Gloucestershire Royal Hospital for the opportunity to speak with Pat Cullen, who's General Secretary and Chief Executive of the RCN. Thank you for coming on the line. When I had the Health Minister, Maria Caulfield, on the show yesterday, she pointed my listeners to Scotland, where she says the nurses have suspended strike action because they're ready to speak about the forthcoming year's pay review from April. Is that something that nurses south of the border are not prepared to do, and if so, why? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Well, what I would suggest to Maria Caulfield or any minister that comes out with the rhetoric that she did yesterday, they need to read their briefs. Why is action paused in Scotland? Because the First Minister intervened and they are in active negotiations, not for, as Maria said, for 23-24, although that's part of it, but they are negotiating to settle 22-23, which is the nurses' dispute. And then let's move to Wales. What's happening in Wales, and why did we not take action as planned yesterday, the 6th, and today, the 7th, in Wales? Simply because, again, the local government stepped in and put an offer on the table for nursing staff and other healthcare workers in Wales. And as we have said all along in the Royal College of Nursing, when an offer is put on the table, we will put that offer to our members. Now, so why is England different? Because we can't even get into a room to negotiate. No one will speak with me. It's weeks now since any government minister or Rishi Sunak had the respect to bring me to a table and negotiate for the hundreds of thousands of nurses that are standing out on picket lines once again today. And this is not just disrespectful to nursing staff. Our nursing staff are saying to me all over England yesterday that they are being punished by this government.
The government would say, or certainly has said in the past, Pat, that you need to engage with the independent pay review body. How do you respond to that?
Well, where did that get us, Nick? That got us to a place where their pay has dropped behind 10 years. It has got us to a place where we're 47,000 vacant nursing posts in England alone. It has got us to a place where 35,000 nurses left the system last year here, and it's got us to a place where the NHS is in total crisis. I would suggest to those government ministers, please come down and speak to these nurses that you see on these picket lines today and listen to their stories. They're absolutely harrowing, really, really harrowing stories. Nurses saying that they've now trained themselves during the day not to drink when they're on a 12-hour shift because they don't have time to go to the toilet. Those are stories coming from the people that are caring for the people of this country, and Rishi Sunak cannot continue to turn his back on them. He needs to get round a table. He needs to now choose talking over striking. This is enough. This is the 6th day he has pushed his nursing staff in this country out on picket lines, and it must stop. It must stop for nursing staff, but more fundamentally, every nurse is telling me today, we need to be able to get back into our hospitals and care for our patients.
One person who has been on the picket line last time round was Chief Nurse Dame Ruth May. Got a degree of criticism for that. Has she joined you again this time around?
I haven't met Ruth on this occasion, but I want to pay tribute to Dame Ruth May. She is our Chief Nursing Officer for England, and indeed I listened to her at her board meeting last week, and she said that this is the saddest period of her career and her profession. I would agree with that, being a nurse of 42 years. So Ruth has come down and spent time with nursing staff and picket lines. She's supporting those that are striking. She's supporting those nurses that continue to provide care and treatment in the hospitals. And I will continue to support Ruth as she has continued to support the Royal College of Nursing.
Finally, Pat, if, and I fear there will be no shift in position by the government, will there be more nurses' strikes?
That's the saddest thing, Nick. When I'm speaking, I visited 10 picket lines across England yesterday, and I'll do the same today. And each and every one of those nurses are saying to me, which I find absolutely tragic, they're saying, please don't turn your back on us in the college and keep going, because this is our time to try and sort the NHS out. We don't want to have to leave it, but we may be left with no choice if we don't get this government to come to a table and Rishi Sunak to hear our voice. He went on the media last week. He said loud and clear, nurses are an exception. I would say to him, come on picket lines and see these exceptional people and the exceptional jobs they do, and he'll come up with different decisions.
But will there be more picket lines later this month or March?
Yes, there will be. There will be if this government keeps turning their back on our nursing staff.
Grateful for your time, Pat Cullen, as ever. Thank you. You're joining me from the picket line outside the Gloucestershire Royal Hospital. You're the General Secretary and Chief Executive of the Royal College of Nursing, saying there will be more strikes from our nurses. A grim forecast, but I just don't see the government moving position currently. Back to the conversation then neatly. That takes us 5 minutes before 9. You've only got £1 to spend. Does it go to a nurse or a soldier? Sue's in Sheen. Sue?
Hello, Nick.
And he was a medievalist too, so he loved the idea that his works was right next to where the priory was.
Gosh. And another famous person in the fabric and textiles world also has a connection to down here in Merton.
Oh yes, that was Arthur Liberty. Liberty is the famous black and white building in Regent Street.
Yes.
And Liberty got all his silks printed here for many, many years in the early part of the last century at what is now Merton Abbey Mills. It was left for derelict in the middle of the last century, but we turned it into a market, rather like the Camden Lock of the South, if you like. And it's a pretty place to come and be. And that's just literally a stone's throw from here. And another stone's throw from here was where Nelson spent his last years before going to Trafalgar. So there's an awful lot of history. It's creaking with history around here.
Absolutely creaking with history. I love it over there at the mills. Never seen it before. I can absolutely imagine what it is like when it's thriving. Obviously, I was there first thing in the morning. Very, very quiet. But I can imagine it would be absolutely amazing, buzzing, thriving place to eat and go out.
Buzzing and thriving. It's a nice market. It's a nice place to eat, and to see this lovely water wheel which goes round. And it is the only working water wheel, as far as I know, certainly in the London area and the south of England, probably.
You hold the key, John.
I've got a few keys in my pocket right here. So.
Can you imagine? But you didn't, because you were saying yesterday that you didn't know very much about Merton. Did you realise, Salma, that actually Merton was an incredibly important place in British history?
I know, and I've done lots of research since then, and it has continually blown my mind. It is, I feel like the borough that just keeps on giving.
Absolutely. So it's not just all about Wimbledon, although I will be back in Wimbledon later in the week.
Of course you will. Listen, thank you so much for showing us around. I've loved it. It's been lovely catching up with you both, and I'll catch up with you shortly.
You will indeed. Take care. Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. And what dulcet tones that man has, John. I feel like he's the type of person I would like for him to read me a bedtime story. You know, just a very soothing voice, which is always what we want at this time in the morning. And as we are creeping up to that 9 o'clock mark, don't forget to get your Kickstarter track suggestions in. As long as it is a song suggestion with clown or funny in the title, I'm going to play it after the news, but you have to tell me what I'm playing. As of yet, not so sure. So get your suggestions in on 81333. Start your message with the word London. And after that, we're going to have a conversation about Safer Internet Day, which is today, and something that is so important for kids, for women, for everyone. But first, let's get the news.
From the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
play BBC Radio London.
And on your radio. The sound of London is BBC Radio London.
9 with the latest for London. I'm Matthew Schofield. More than 5,000 people are now known to have died after 2 major earthquakes hit southern Turkey and northern Syria. Dozens of countries have promised to send help, but freezing weather conditions are hampering the rescue effort. The International Development Minister Andrew Mitchell says help from Britain is on its way though.
We had ready to go from Birmingham last night 76 UK search and rescue specialists and 4 search dogs, and they are about to take off now. It's very important that they arrive in daylight so that they can immediately set to work rescuing people.
Well, Chelsea Football Club says it's praying for the Ghanaian international Christian Atsu, who's reportedly been trapped under rubble caused by the earthquakes in Turkey. Wow. The Blues signed him in 2013, though he never actually played for the first team and was loaned out to other clubs. A former Met Police officer who was unmasked as one of the UK's most prolific sex offenders is expected to learn his sentence later, but not before more of the women David Carrick abused have explained the physical and mental torment they endured. Yesterday, one of them told Southwark Crown Court she felt she'd encountered evil. Croydon High School for Girls has described its former head teacher as hugely respected and much loved after she, her husband and their 7-year-old daughter were all found dead over the weekend. Since September, Emma Patterson had been running another top private school, Epsom College, where the family's bodies were found in the grounds. Surrey police haven't said how they died, but they say no one else was involved. The BBC's been told that Chelsea and Fulham MP Greg Hands is likely to be named the new Conservative Party chairman today. The job's been vacant for more than a week since Nadim Zahawi was sacked for failing to disclose that HMRC was investigating his tax affairs. Rishi Sunak's expected to announce a ministerial reshuffle this morning. And the BBC's Nick Eardley says the Prime Minister is also expected to announce a breakup of the existing Business and Energy Department.
The idea is to have a separate government body that's looking specifically at how to make sure the UK has decent energy security, particularly after the price spikes we've seen recently. So I think we might see some new government departments today as well, which is likely to mean some new ministers in senior roles.
BP's profits have more than doubled after the energy giant benefited from soaring gas prices caused by the war in Ukraine. It made £23 billion last year, just days after its rival Shell reported its highest ever profits, sparking calls for an additional windfall tax. Nurses at around a dozen London hospitals, including King's, UCH and Great Ormond Street, are on strike again today for the second day running. With no sign of concessions over this year's pay deal, the Royal College of Nursing's warn the strikes will continue for as long as it takes. Croydon Council has been granted special permission to increase council tax bills in April by 15%, far more than the 5% normally allowed without holding a referendum. It'll cost the typical family another £4.50 a week. The council's effectively gone bankrupt 3 times in less than 2 years. And Croydon's Conservative elected Mayor Jason Perry says it's got £1.6 billion worth of debt, but only £300 million worth of assets.
I know it's going to hit people hard. We're in a difficult time at the moment as it is. It's a tough decision, but it's one that we have to make in order to get back to some sort of normality here in Croydon, because we can't carry on just keep borrowing, because it has to be paid for at some point in time.
I'm Elizabeth Rizzini with London's weather. Still some mist and fog patches lifting and clearing through this morning. It was a chilly, frosty start. It will be feeling a bit colder today than it was yesterday for most of us, but plenty of blue sky and sunshine, and the winds are very light. We'll see temperatures peak between 7 and 9 degrees Celsius.
For an update anytime, you can ask your smart speaker to play BBC News for London.
I'm James Woolley with the BBC Radio London Travel. Well, the foggy conditions causing problems for the roads as well as public transport. City airports have been reporting some delays and cancellations for their flights. No Woolwich Ferry, that's out of action because of foggy conditions on the Thames. Elizabeth Line, still severe delays Whitechapel to Shenfield. There's just been a crash on the M3 heading towards London. Just 2 lanes are open heading up towards the M25. The A12, that's just been closed out of London towards the M25 at Harold Wood. There's a crash between the Gallows Corner Junction and the M25 causing delays. BBC Radio London. Next travel in 30 minutes.
Been doing this for years and years, and they finally deserve some recognition and appreciation for it.
The BBC Radio London Make a Difference Awards.
Nominations are open now. Go to bbc.co.uk/make a difference.
Salma El-Wadani at breakfast. BBC
Radio London.
Indeed it is, and a very good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9. Thank you for being here with me. If you're just tuning in now, or you've been here with me since the very beginning, either way, it is such a pleasure to have you here, and so lovely to spend that time and that company with you. That's exactly what we do here on the programme. Just spend a little time together, make sense of the world together, and have a little bit of a giggle along the way, and hopefully give you some escapism and respite from the world. Now, we always start this hour with our Kickstarter track. Today I feel was hard. It was. I put my hands up and I said at the beginning, I think this is going to be difficult. Yet you still rose to the challenge. Helen in Colston has got the winning pick. Morning, Helen.
Oh, good morning, Salma. Me again.
It's you.
This is my second win.
Look, your second
in 2 weeks.
I know. Yeah. What can I say? I just can't get enough of you, Helen. Let me ask, Helen, is it your birthday today?
It certainly is, madam.
Oh, happy birthday, Helen. Happy birthday. How are you spending and celebrating the day?
I'm just getting dressed. My son's going to drop me at the station. My sister lives in Yapton, right near Arundel. Right. So I'm spending 2 days and nights down there. She's booked the Ivy in Chichester for today for high tea. And then I've got a nice haircut booked for tomorrow, which my other son was paid for. And so I love going down there. I go down there often, and it's just lovely to get away.
That sounds gorgeous, and cake is on the agenda, so I'm happy for you, Helen.
Scones,
Lovely, lots of cream, jam, layer it up there,
jam
won't you, Helen?
Jam on first, because you can get more cream on.
Do you know what? I'm butter, jam, cream, and that's what we want. That's the right way to do it. Helen, have a scone for me, won't you? And a very happy birthday, and I hope you enjoy your day. Tell the good people of London, why have you picked this song?
It reminds me of my younger years.
Oh.
And I loved it. I was always like a Motown girl and a funk girl.
Well,
we all were.
Oh, I love that. Well, listen, I'm going to leave it to you, Helen. Give it the big intro for everyone.
This is one of my very favourites from my childhood. It's Tears of a Clown, and I can't remember who it's by. Oh, right. Okay.
Thank you, Helen.
From the electricity board, I believe, studying mathematics. How did you enjoy that?
First there was the personal and culture shock of having been, rather good in my local environment in Devon, I'm a mathematician, to find, I was probably the 250th, when you got to Cambridge. So it was, there were a lot of very clever people, and, small co-ed grammar school, I hadn't met that many clever people before. So that was a slight shock. And I found as the course went on, less and less motivated by what you might call pure mathematics. I'm more motivated by what can you do with this stuff, how can you change the world. And at that time there was a rather charismatic economics professor called Joan Robinson who went around in a Mao uniform giving economics lectures. So I'm afraid I spent at least as much time in economics, sitting at the back in economics lectures than going to mathematics. I wasn't a diligent student.
And is that, sitting in economics classes, is that where you develop your taste for statistics, rather than like pure mathematics, algebra, geometry?
Yeah, so we had the opportunity of an interview in our final year, where do you go from here? And I said, look, I was really good at probability, but I've enjoyed going to economics lectures and, decision-making, economic decision-making. And the guy I was talking to went, there is an emerging new subject, statistical decision theory. And the guy who promulgates it in the UK has just moved to University College in London. Why don't I phone him up and see if I can get you onto the master's course? And that was it.
And you did, so you went down to UCL to do a master's in statistics.
Master's in statistics, because there was virtually no statistics in the undergraduate degree in Cambridge. So it was like doing what would now be an undergraduate degree in statistics in 1 year.
Right.
So I really liked that. It was great.
And that set you up for going on to do a PhD?
Then there was 3 years worth of money, so I had to do the PhD in 2 years, which concentrated the mind, I have to say. I mean, I didn't know better. I thought this was how the world was, right? But actually, trying to forge a new area with only 2 years worth of money, I did work quite hard.
And how do you work personally? Do you like to sort of lock yourself away and think and scribble, or do you work late into the night?
Yeah, there was a period, yes, workaholic, work in the night. But I had a rule, I always stopped at 9:30 and went to the pub for the last hour.
Very sensible. So these are 3 frenzied years working in statistics in London.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you had a better experience there than you did at Cambridge.
Well, I'd found something I actually was back being one of the best at, I suppose.
That's really positive, because I think that we understand why it's important. I guess the trick and the challenge is now is what tools can we use to enable physical activity to be built into everyday life.
quite, yes, because I guess you mentioned the pandemic, there will be those families who said, right, we're all going out for a walk, or we're going to do this, that, the other, and other children didn't get those opportunities. So now that, of course, we are all back in schools, what do you think needs to happen?
Okay, so we're really fortunate that we support the delivery of a programme called the Kent School Games, and ultimately this is about inspiring young people to be physically active for life, and that's really key there. It's that sustained participation, and we do that by the whole piece around positive experience. I think we've learnt a lot over the years in terms of, historically as adults, we would tell young people to do certain types of sport, and a lot of that came down to what do the PE teachers like, what do the parents like. But we've really developed in terms of now collecting young people's thoughts and insight around what activities do they want to do. And this is a really key part. I mean, we've taken some massive learnings from our school games programme, where actually one of the activities that came up highest in a recent survey that we did was dodgeball. And we as adults never would have thought of that, but because of that we're able to do some teacher training in schools to help teachers deliver that activity. And as part of our school games programme, we actually delivered a dodgeball festival recently, which was absolutely brilliant. So there you've got buy-in from young people because it was their idea initially, but also you're taking teachers on the journey by supporting them through that additional training that they need.
And do you have enough budget for this? Because a lot of the people I've spoken to today on this topic say it's about investment, right? It's about the money that goes into organising things like, yes, a dodgeball tournament.
Yes, it's interesting. I mean, we are fairly lucky in terms of school games that we do get supported by Sport England National Lottery funding. We also get some support through Kent County Council, but I think we do have to be careful in terms of money's not always the solution. And actually, some of these interventions don't need to necessarily cost a huge amount. So just for example, some of the training that's available, a lot of it's actually free or of very minimal cost.
I see. So it's about, I guess, the habits that we get into as individuals, right? And what we teach our children.
Absolutely, and I think that role models piece is huge for us. That again, it was so interesting listening to some of the parents that you interviewed, because people really understand this, but for whatever reason, we're just at the moment not getting through those barriers that are preventing physical activities. That there is a huge element as parents, as teachers, as aunts and uncles, just thinking about our everyday activities and what we can change in terms of those really small changes to help inspire our young people to be physically active.
Should sport or PE in schools be a core subject, do you think, like English or maths?
Right, I'm going to be really biased on this one, obviously say absolutely yes. I mean, there's so much evidence there to suggest that actually if you're increasing young people's physical activity, their attainment levels are better, they're happier, they're just able to cope with what the world we now live in, which is far more stressful. And also the whole purpose of getting through education is to create young people and then adults who are able to perform a really positive role within our society, which if people are happier, healthier, we know that can be achievable.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Listen, Natalie, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you for joining us. Natalie Harris, then, Events and Programmes Manager for KCC, lead on the School Games programme in Kent. Let's turn now to Claire Edwards, Senior Campaigns Manager at This Girl Can. You may have seen the adverts. You're all about positive role models, Claire, and encouraging young people to take up sport, right?
That's it, exactly, yes. It's all about empowering women to be active in whatever way works for them, and celebrating that they're being active at all.
Do you think that there is a bit of a bias then, that it's harder perhaps for girls to feel like, yeah, I can do that too? Maybe they see more men doing sport on TV or more posters with men wearing trainers?
I think that's it. We know that there's a lot of this in the media and the role models that people have, and we see that in our research, women are much more likely to say they feel judged, they feel embarrassed, they feel uncomfortable being active, both in later years, but also when they're reflecting on their PE experience at school.
What do we do about that then? What are you doing about it?
Well, we are looking to broaden out the types of activities. I think that Natalie, your previous guest, made some fantastic points there about what the school games are doing.
Celsius.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Long delays on the M3 northbound up towards the M25 junction. Just before the junction, there's been an accident. 2 of the 4 lanes are closed and there are queues on the approach. It's also very foggy on that stretch. So as a result of the fog, there are delays on the M25 clockwise from 8 at Reigate to 15 at the M4, and anti-clockwise to the M4 is slow from junction 18 at Chorley Wood. Also because of the fog, there's no Woolwich Ferry and there's delays and cancellations at London City Airport. Now elsewhere, the A12 is closed northbound at Harold Wood. That's following an accident. And on the trains, there are severe delays on the Elizabeth line between Whitechapel and Shenfield after a train broke down.
This is LBC.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Free airport lounge access with 4- and 5-star holidays with On the Beach. See terms and conditions outbound only, subject to availability at all protected.
On the beach. Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC.
When a baby cries, you want to do everything you can to help. Emmanuel and his twin brother need your help to receive antibiotics. Pneumonia has filled their lungs with fluid and they are fighting for every breath. With your help, for just £6, Save the Children could provide the medicine they need. And that's all we're asking you for, to save a child like Emmanuel's life. Please, go to savethechildren.org.uk now and give £6 a month. Thank you.
Got an untaxed car? You could hide it in a hedge or sneak it in a skip. Maybe cloak it with some cones or outfox us with a fence. You might try to cover it, smother it, bury it in sticks, park it down the lane, tuck it down the drain, stash it in a bus stop, paint it like a mountaintop. But whatever you try, you will always find that cars are hard to hide, but easy to tax. So don't risk it. Tax it with DVLA at gov.uk/DVLA/taxit.
If you're worried that your mortgage payments could go up, it's helpful to know that you can arrange to switch your Barclays mortgage up to 180 days before your current one ends. One way you can do this is in the Barclays app. Your new rate will then apply as soon as your existing rate expires. Simple. For more money help, including other ways to switch your mortgage, search Barclays Cost of Living. Barclays. Make money work for you. Subject to application, financial circumstances and borrowing history. T's and C's apply. 18+. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
Tonight's Euro Millions jackpot could make your dreams come true, but not the dream where you're naked at work. No, the one where you're relaxing on your own luxury super yacht. Tonight's Euro Millions jackpot is £32 million. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Play on app. Estimated jackpot. Account terms, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over.
HS2 construction work is taking place on the A501 Euston Road. From the 20th of February until summer 2023, there will be lane closures between the Euston Underpass and Eversholt Street. All roads in the surrounding area will be very busy and journeys will take longer, so please check before you travel. To plan alternative routes in London, search HS2 Travel Advice, or visit the HS2 website to find out more about the project.
If you bought a timeshare in Spain or the Canaries, you may have been missold and could be owed compensation. Text timeshare to 78900 to find out more.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Dan in Kent coming to you in just a moment. A couple of emails, texts and tweets on the subject about general election. Sanjay in Maidenhead, general election please, we can't make for any more pain. Same subject, this comes from Ron in Stoddington in West Sussex. There are many who want to change of government, but it won't make any difference. We now have Labour and Labour Light until we're a government that rewards work and cuts government interference in our lives. This comes from Norman. Enough gaslighting. Election now. Pete in action to general election tomorrow, please. And lastly, this comes from Katie. Yes to a general election as soon as possible. We can't have 18 months more of this sleaze and incompetence. Dan is in East Malling, God's own land of Kent. What are you going to tell me, Dan? Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, definitely a general election as soon as we can. I was a card-carrying member of the Conservative Party. I was a councillor for East Malling, actually, and Yep, and
just to explain for people who don't know, it's a little bit outside of Maidstone, sort of up from the Garden of England, for people who don't know where you are, and it's Malling.
That's exactly where it is, yes.
Well, I used to live in Platt, so I know exactly where you are.
Oh, okay, yes, that's just down the road.
Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful part of the country, and I've been an environmental campaigner here for a long time. But I mean, for me, it was very difficult there. I mean, the Conservative house.
What was the breaking point, Dan? When did you decide, up with this I will not put, and leave the Conservatives?
Well, it was just one thing after another, and I was defending, I get sick of defending Boris and then defending, and then I see the Conservative Party themselves make a terrible decision by selecting Liz Truss as our Prime Minister, and it was just one thing after another. And then, the other day I see that a development for 1,600 houses right in the countryside next to us is being proposed again. That's a Conservative, the Conservative policy on house building, which has cost the Conservatives elections in Beaconsfield, as you know. So yes, it's just one thing after another, really.
And did you say you were going to join the Lib Dems, or you have joined the Lib Dems before you let the dog out?
I've joined the Lib Dems, and I'm going to be standing for them at the local elections. And it's quite difficult for me because my local MP is Tom Tugendhat and Tracy Crouch, who I have a great deal of respect for.
Yes.
But I just don't support the party anymore.
Okay. I think you'll be walking the dog before you'll be standing in any election. The dog's definitely voting for walkies now, never mind general election now. So I'll let you get on. Dan, thank you for your input on that. More calls coming in. But let's go. I did mention earlier, and there is an interesting, position here, because we've heard from the government that I think the plane has now taken off from Birmingham. We heard from the government minister earlier this morning that it was readying when he was talking with us and should have taken off by now, on its way to Turkey, and of course all this aid pouring into Turkey. The death toll now more than 5,000 in the earthquakes on the Turkish and Syrian border. So I asked International Development Minister Andrew Mitchell in the first hour of the show, why is it all predominantly seeming to go to Turkey? Will we say and send the same level of aid to Syria, which, let's be honest about it, earthquakes don't respect any borders. They seem to have been hit just as badly. Here's part of his response.
Sadly, there are very different circumstances. Our thinking is to get the right expertise into Turkey to help the Turkish effort, and that's what we're doing as far as Turkey is concerned. As far as Syria is concerned, northern Syria is extensively ungoverned space. There's only one crossing from the Turkish border into Syria that's open at the moment, where we hope the UN may be able to negotiate additional openings. And what we're doing there is supporting the White Helmets, which Britain has supported for some years. They were a civil defence group during the warfare in Syria, but they are the right people on the ground to support now. Britain has supported them and will continue to do so.
That's Andrew Mitchell. James Rothwell is Middle East correspondent for The Telegraph, joins me from Jerusalem, and in today's edition of the paper he and some colleagues have an article with the intro of which runs as follows. Pinned underneath the rubble of his collapsed home in Syria's Idlib province, a young boy sobbed and shrieked in the freezing rain as he waited to be rescued. James joins me now. James, explain to my listeners, we seem to be rescuing boys and girls such as him and others in Turkey, but not the same level as Syria. What is Andrew Mitchell talking about as regards this ungovernable part of the country? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the issue is that part of Syria is locked in a civil war between the Assad regime and various militant groups that are operating in the area. So we're not talking about a situation where a relatively quote-unquote normal governed part of the world has been struck by a terrible disaster. It's a place where about 4.5 million people are already living in abject poverty. They're dealing with airstrikes which are happening as a result of the ongoing war. The buildings that they live in are often structurally unsound because they've been neglected or as I said, they've survived some sort of previous bombing campaign. So it's just the absolute worst possible version of events essentially for them. It's very different from Turkey, where not only is there obviously not a civil war going on, but there is also a sort of coherent government in place that can work on getting aid out there. And so the situation is looking, for North Syria, absolutely dire.
Have any facilities been extended from Damascus, and what has the Assad regime said about the earthquake?
Well, the problem at the moment is that there's two issues actually going on at the moment. It's not completely clear for the time being how the Assad regime is going to react to this, but there's also been discussion about whether Turkey can do anything to help from their side, because as Andrew Mitchell was saying on the programme earlier, there is that A crossing that connects Turkey and Syria. The issue is that the Turkish emergency response system seems to have completely... Turks have already got a situation where provinces and cities like Hatay and Iskenderun are under unbelievable pressure with thousands trapped under rubble. They are presumably going to put their priorities onto those areas first, and that leaves a big question mark over what will be done, if anything, to Syria. And I think what Mr. Mitchell was alluding to earlier is that what may need to happen here is that at the UN level, some sort of arrangement is figured out